Hello, I'm DeeCee. I'm an MLM dropout, and today we are going to be getting real advice from the incorrigible Jessie Lee Ward. I am hoping that this video is going to be under 30 minutes as a continuation of one video I did last year that was super close to 30 minutes, and I'm just gonna try it out. I'm gonna try to add it to the lineup. Grab your lint rollers, let's roll the disclaimer and get started on hearing all this incredible MLM advice. Listen, I lint rolled before I recorded, and I'm just making sure there's no fluffies just escaping. If you don't know, I have a dog and his hair gets everywhere, and I'm also kind of a mess myself. Just need to invest in a lint rolling company, and I'm probably never going to stop lint rolling on pre-recorded videos or on lives. I'm sorry to tell you that. If you don't know who Jessie Lee Ward is, I don't know where you've been, but she is a top earner in Prove It, which is a multi-level marketing selling exogenous ketones that claim they will put you into ketosis in an hour or less, I think. And you'll see different claims of better sleep, better focus, better mood, all the other things. And for the longest time, Jessie Lee Ward said better digestion on her list. And since February, that claim has been dropped unceremoniously from the list. I think we can all figure out why. If you have not really been following Jessie Lee Ward, I will link a playlist at the top of this video, probably right here, and you can follow along on the Jessie Lee Ward playlist. There's also a Columbia fiasco playlist if you want to see what happened on her trip with her team to Columbia. There were several requests to try to make reaction videos when they're the 1080 by 1920 pixel size. Video is a little bit bigger, so we're going to try that on this video right now.
Those people are in business and they're not understanding this is always the business of relationships. The reason I became this monster networker and this crazy marketer, and I've had such a stable business and my retention is crazy, and people who have left me years ago come flying back, is because I'm in the business of relationships, and I always understood that. Most of you need to write that down because it's the one biggest hole that's missing in your businesses. And some of you are good at it when people are good to you, and then you're really bad at it when people turn their backs on you. And I kind of look at it as a fortunate because I learned so much from it, but I had people turn their backs on me. I had people try to destroy me, right? And I looked at it still from a positive lens because I knew if I stayed true to who I was and I stayed in the business of relationships, I could scale a true business, not just the business that I was so focused in the moment. So much stuff will change.
Jessie Lee, do you not remember that most of the content that you've posted yourself to the internet tells maybe a different story about how good you've been to people in those relationships that have left you? I'm not making any claims. I'm just asking questions. If you are new here, I don't see relationships as commodities or as currency to further my career. I think it's twisty AF to use people to get further ahead in life. I think it's awful. I'm not a fan. All right, next one.
Everybody has trauma. Everybody. Some people have capital T trauma that alters your literal psychology of who you are as a human being. Actually, I think a lot of us have that as well. And then there's little t traumas all over the place. It shows up in triggers that then you have a compulsive behavior, or you have destructive behaviors, or all of a sudden you're spiraling and you're not sure why. But every single one of us has trauma. So this idea that you are unique because A, B, C, D, E, F, G happened to you, I'm here to tell you as your friend, you're not unique because of that. What would make you more unique is you actually growing through it and healing through that, whether that's through therapists, whether that's through counseling, whether that's through talking to people, whatever. But you gotta heal in order to grow. Too many people fall into this trap of trauma, and I hate to see it, but I see it everywhere. People love being the victim. They love the struggle. They love talking about how I hardly have $5 at the end of the month.
Ma'am, nobody who has gone through something traumatic is looking for it to be unique about themselves. Most people who've gone through trauma wish that it had never happened to them, and in some cases, businesses, people have access to therapy or to services that help them be able to just function just enough in society to be able to live. They're not looking for it as a gold star on their history of existence and showing it like, oh my God, I have more trauma than you. That is such an unhealthy, twisty perspective. And this whole conversation about victim mentality, get out of here. Sure, I think, and this is just me speaking, I'm cheering for everyone. I hope that if you have experienced trauma and you're able to work through it and that you then can function and feel safer in society because you have access to tools to help you be mentally healthy and safe, that's amazing. It seems like Jessie Lee is only concerned about people who have had trauma, who've worked through it, and then make a crap ton of money. That's the success that she's talking about. I think there's more to the world than the money in your bank account.
As women, something we do very poorly, I would say, we do this a lot, is we downplay the stuff we do like it's not a big deal. If somebody else were telling you about what you do, maybe that's what you need to do, is you need to break off into groups and say, what are things you see me do? What are some things that I do that I really don't remember doing, or I don't really know? Stuff like this will start to come naturally to you. You need to have those lists. Again, so what's special about your leadership? And then what's special about your whole team? Maybe you have systems nobody else has. Maybe you have software nobody else has. Maybe you have team trips nobody else has. Maybe you have the most incredible leadership as an overall statement that nobody else has access to. Start telling some of this stuff. Start to talk about why you're unique, why your opportunity is unique, why your team's unique, and you're going to see all of this increase.
Were those all things that you think are unique about your team? I've known some very strong women in my life, strong people, but she's specifically talking about women here. And she surely seems to make a lot of generalizations about women, about what women do or do not do, and then tries to make generalized conclusions and lump everybody into one category when people are unique and they have different experiences and they have different ways of behaving. And it's not true of all women that they have a hard time telling about the things that they can offer. And then she's using a generalization about women to teach people some kind of business opportunity or how to talk about their business or the unique things that their business has to offer. Okay, I mean, wouldn't you rather have a specific type of training if you were getting coached by someone for a lot of money about what you as a person need to do better in your own business and have it apply to you and not just apply to you because you may identify as a woman and she's talking about women? What is happening?
The thing about being an entrepreneur is you cannot point fingers. It's taking that ownership over, maybe I'm not following everything my coach says to do. Maybe I'm not doing all the things I was supposed to do in my business. Maybe I'm not following the step-by-step. Maybe I'm not doing the posts. Maybe I'm not making the connections. Maybe I'm not showing up on every call I need to show up on. I will not take credit for your success. If I were to coach you and you end up being a multi-millionaire and you've bought into me and I've coached you and I mentored you and whatever, I don't want you being like, it was all because of Jessie Lee. I'm like, the hell it was. I didn't get up early every day. I didn't go train all those people. I didn't prospect all those people. I don't want credit for your success. At the same time, don't you give me credit for your failures. Because that's what people do. They play this blaming, shaming, justifying game where everything is the mentor's fault. Everything is the coach's fault. The program. If the program turned a bunch of people into 6 and 7 and 8 figure earners, the problem was not the program.
Maybe it's the problem with the leadership. You're telling me that you have never once said, oh my gosh, I'm the reason that the empire is so incredible because I've taught and I've created all these systems and it was all me. You're saying you haven't said that, Jessie Lee? I think the hundreds, if not thousands of hours of internet content that you have published on all of your social sites would say otherwise. And the failures in multi-level marketing, one for sure, can be applied to the broken compensation model, but you can also take responsibility for some of the stuff that you've done and you've led your team to do. What about the time when you were yelling at your team when you were at one of those events when everyone was talking about how many people were $1 million earners under them and there were some leaders that had 12, 13, 14, $15 million earners under them, and then you came back to your room and got on a Zoom with your team and just yelled at them and berated them because it was so embarrassing that you, as this alleged number one network marketer in the world, didn't have one multi-million dollar or $1 million earner on your team. What? Sometimes it seems like you don't remember what you're saying on the internet.
the difference between self-employed and being business owners. Most business owners, you're not actually business owners yet. So when somebody says they're self-employed, it's not bad. I think that's better than being like a normal employee, for God's sake, right? You have no leverage when you're a normal employee. But at the same time, what most of the people have done is we've created our own little special prison. We built ourselves a new job. It's like if you don't show up every day for your business or every other day or whatever your capacity is you currently show up in, things don't spin. Like the flywheel slowly just stops moving. If you had freedom in your main business that was cash flowing, it would allow every single one of you to have any kind of life you want. I want you to be business owners. So get away from being self-employed and what can you do and what kind of structure can you create so that you are truly a business owner? Because it's different. And once you shift over to that side, you never really can look back. You're just like, wow.
Here's a question. In multi-level marketing, I'm not saying you can't apply for a business license because most people have an LLC. They probably do in an MLM. When you have a contract with a multi-level marketing company, you are an independent contractor. So if you meet the terms and conditions of what you're supposed to be doing in the company and you're behaving in a way that the company allows, you get access to whatever commission your team is bringing in. If you are an independent contractor, wouldn't that mean you are not an independent business owner? Wouldn't it mean you're an independent contractor and that your contract can be terminated at any time? I've just got questions.
If you just focused on being a good person, because you need to understand, some of you have a weird thing about money. I know this to be a fact. You're worried about making your first $1 million because you think it's going to change you. But the fact of the matter is it's not. It's going to elevate exactly who you are. So what if you got to step into the better version of yourself? What if you got to step into a more powerful, giving, compassionate, caring, loving, kind person? That's all money's going to do. And who do you get to become in the process? It's not about the $1 million. It's about who you have to become to make the $1 million. Some of you followed me years ago at my first GoPro stage. You're like, oh gosh, I'm not even going to watch Jessie Lee because she's the loud girl. She's crazy energy. She's this, she's that. I'm different now, aren't I? How many of you are like, I am like, not even sure that's her. She doesn't look like herself. She doesn't talk like herself. Her energy's definitely there, but she's different. She's polished. She speaks better. That happens when you're becoming the best version of yourself.
Why was this clipped? Here's a question. When you're in marketing and you're making these little bites that go and you can push them out to reels or shorts, and you're stoking the fire basically of your social presence so that if anything goes viral, people will have things to watch. Why would we clip that? I'm just curious. It is interesting because back in the day when she was her, as she said, loud, she also uses it as something as a negative, but then she back then accepted it fully as this is who I am and I'm happy with who I am. And now that she is in a bigger space because she's made more money, it was somehow a broken part of her personality that she has polished herself and become elevated when she didn't view it as a bad thing back then. But now she does view it as a bad thing. I'm just confused.
I think that if you don't have the perfect setup, you become so much more relatable. Because who are you actually trying to attract? Are you only trying to attract the top 0.0001% who's already made it, who's already filming their stuff on DSLR or whatever the hell cameras and already has the perfect microphone and already has whatever? I think part of my charm is I'm really, really intelligent and I really, really don't care that this Logitech webcam Tim Ferriss told me to buy, by the way. I bought it. It was only $149 and behind it is a DSLR camera, but I lost the camera cord, so I don't know how to plug it in. And I think that makes me more relatable. And I think it makes people go, okay, if she can do it and she can make tens of millions of dollars and she can be somebody who inspires the world, but she can do it with a $149 camera, well, maybe I can too.
I would maybe argue that the charm that you're talking about is maybe it's charming for some people. It's not charming to me, obviously, because I have a bias against the fluffery going on in her space. As someone who has issues with sound, maybe not everyone does. Making it as much as you can a pleasant listening experience for people isn't trying to be more or trying to be too elevated or too techie or whatever. It's just saying, is this enjoyable to listen back? No. Can I make it better with what I have access to? Do you have a towel? Yes. Do you have a cardboard box? Yes. Put your phone in that and talk into that and let it capture the sound for you. Record in your closet with your voice facing the hanging clothes and then you're sitting on the carpet so it makes a warm, full sound, even if you don't have a microphone. The problem is you're giving people speed bumps. And I know this too. I'm not going to say I'm the president of the Technical Difficulty Club, but I'm definitely paying my dues. You know what I'm saying? I know that it is a speed bump for people to be able to listen about what I'm trying to teach on. And I say teach. Educate on the deceptive practices of multi-level marketing and the deceptive health claims in multi-level marketing. And other commentary on other fluffery. I'm saying fluffery because I'm trying not to cuss in this video. Knowing that sometimes speed bumps fully disengage someone from your video and that they're not going to be able to listen to the content. It's just a reality of it. Sometimes the audio is so bad that people get actual anxiety from listening to something because they're hearing you, they're hearing the echo, they're hearing the cars outside, they're hearing the room noise. Then you have a sudden like sharp spike in sound, maybe from a dog barking. Not everyone's like this. I'm saying I am like this. Can I do things to give people less speed bumps when they're watching my content? Sure, I try. Is it going to be perfect every time? No. Is that going to stop me? No, it is not. But just being aware of it is the point, because you're trying to say, this is valuable information. I think it's valuable. And how do I make it as easily accessible and easily digestible for someone watching the content? How do I do that? Maybe fully lit, so that if someone needs to read lips, they can read my lips. And maybe back in the day, I used to cover my mouth more with my microphone, but people can't read lips when my mouth is covered. Or maybe someone they don't see very well, and having a full lit, not studio, but a full lit whatever scene, it helps them engage because they can actually see, at least they can see it more clearly than if you're dealing with a bunch of pixelation from a low quality camera and no lighting. I don't know what I'm trying to say. How wealthy people stay wealthy. Bold, coming from someone who gets people to pay a huge monthly fee to get backstock for ketones. It's just cute.
See my TikTok comments of like, hey, if you make millions of dollars a month, can I get $1 million? It'll change my life. No, it won't. No, it won't. I could give you all my wealth. I could give you all the money I have. You would lose all of it, because success has weight and success has responsibilities to it. And money in particular, if you do not know how you got it and you do not respect how you got it and you did not have the journey to it, you lose it. And if you think that I'm being crazy, go look at how many people win the lottery and they lose it because you don't understand money. You don't respect money.
Why are we grabbing these clips that are just awful? Being able to save a house from going into foreclosure is meaningful to an individual family. Being able to buy food, meaningful. Being able to pay to have access to healthcare, that's pretty meaningful. So sometimes $1 million would change someone's life. Oh, you're just not fully elevated enough to know how to take care of money, so you don't deserve to have money. That's such a...
The person was willing to drive hundreds of miles a day to go to an event that I may or may not sell anything, so I may or may not make money. I may or may not be able to afford the food on the way back, right? There were many times when I was learning how to sell, you're trying to do everything to conserve gas, and you're not stopping at the gas station to grab a snack or even a meal. You're not staying in a hotel even though you've driven 4 hours from your house one way. I was willing to make those sacrifices. I was willing to make the phone calls that people aren't willing to make. For me to get my first team member, I had to call A all the way down through K in my phone, dialing for dollars. So every A, Ron, all the way down, all the B's, all the C's, all the D's, all the E's, all the F's, the whole freaking alphabet. I was willing to go to the trainings and carpool to get there because my car at the time was not reliable enough to get there. So I was willing to drive partially to somebody else's house 15 minutes away, carpool with them, offer them $5 in gas because gas was cheaper, whatever it took. I was just hungry because I knew there was more to life.
Ma'am, who is in charge of your social media? Because what is happening? Who's grabbing these clips?
What is the issue about driving 15 minutes to a friend's house who's going to the same event so y'all can share gas? Why is that a sacrifice? I know what she's trying to say. I just don't think it's that inspirational. I don't think it's that meaningful. Some of the stuff she says, it's like, why are we saying like this was the part to clip? Why don't you just make content? You're going to talk about the sacrifices you made as an early salesperson instead of going through a Zoom call that you recorded on your phone and then have your social person clip it up into meaningless reels.
I have been a hustler and a grinder since I can remember. I'm like, okay, first official job at 13, but of course was a little hustling entrepreneur child since like the earliest I can remember is 5. Same thing. I love it. Like, I love the energy. I love the impact you can make on people. I love the results you get.
They screwed up the audio on this. It's only coming out of one ear. I know y'all can't hear that. If you're paying someone to do social for you and you're exporting it, just know what you're paying for. I'm not trying to be an a-hole. I'm just saying make sure you're getting what you're paying for. And look, she might not be giving them enough for it to be meaningful, but this is this is just such an easy thing to fix.
When you coach people, I didn't need to put a coaching program together. I just love when people say stuff like Jack said, like, my business completely changed in 6 months working with you. I'm like, yeah, it feels like a shot of adrenaline to me. I'm like, that's my drug, right? But I will also say I can make all the money in the world right now, and the only thing that I wish I had right now is my health.
Didn't she just say that she was not going to take credit for people's wins? Didn't she just say that? We'll just listen to the real side by side. Okay, here we go. We're even-ish. We'll play this one first.
The thing about being an entrepreneur is you cannot point fingers. It's taking that ownership over, maybe I'm not following everything my coach says to do. Maybe I'm not doing all the things I was supposed to do in my business. Maybe I'm not following the step-by-step. Maybe I'm not doing the posts. Maybe I'm not making the connections. Maybe I'm not showing up on every call I need to show up on. I will not take credit for your success. If I were to coach you and you end up being a multi-millionaire and you've bought into me and I've coached you and I've mentored you and whatever, I don't want you being like, it was all because of Jessie Lee. I'd be like, the hell it was. I didn't get up early every day. I didn't go train all those people. I didn't prospect all those people. I don't want credit for your success. At the same time, don't you give me credit for your failures. Because that's what people do. They play this blaming, shaming, justifying game where everything is the mentor's fault. Everything is the coach's fault. The program. If the program turned a bunch of people into 6 and 7 and 8 figure earners, the problem was not the program.
Okay. And so then we've got this one.
I have been a hustler and a grinder since I can remember. I'm like, okay, first official job at 13, but of course was a little hustling entrepreneur child since like the earliest I can remember is 5. Same thing. I love it. Like I love the energy. I love the impact you can make on people. I love the results you get when you coach people. I didn't need to put a coaching program together. I just love when people say stuff like Jack said, like my business completely changed in 6 months working with you. I'm like, yeah, it feels like a shot of adrenaline to me. I'm like, that's my drug, right? But I will also say I can make all the money in the world right now, and the only thing that I wish I had right now is...
I have sympathy for what she said about her health. I'm just saying hypocrisy, okay?
Knowing how to pitch is an indispensable skill. It's our responsibility to posture up in what we're pitching, posture up in how we're selling, posture up in our belief. If you believe, so will they. What you're really doing when you're selling is you're transferring belief. But let me tell you something. If you can market and brand yourself well, the pitch and the sales become extremely easy because the trust is enormous at that point. And if you know how to pitch as an entrepreneur, you can do anything. I get convinced on some deals sometimes where I'm like, I don't even think this is a good freaking deal, but what the hell else? Oh, whatever. The pitch is really good. I like the person. You'll be able to close more people with whatever, I like the person, more often than you realize. The skill and the speed in which you can convey what you've developed and why it matters is what's important. So how fast can you get to, this is why you do it, this is why it's important, this is why you should give me your money? That's really what pitching is. That's how you bring other people on board. That's how you sell more. That's how you recruit more. That's how you do everything. And I'll tell you, the number one way to do it right now is video.
Why is it video? I know why it's video. I'm just saying, what did we learn here? The problematic thing that I have is what happens when you have an incredibly talented salesperson who can pitch you anything and they get a hold of a schemey MLM product. What happens then? People are going to buy things because of the influence from the salesperson, because they're posturing up, because the talent that they have for convincing someone to buy something is so far and above what the product can actually do for the person. It's twisty here. Stop wasting money.
Most of you are just terribly overspenders. And you know you are, so I don't need to make you feel bad.
What are we overspending on? Ketones? What are we overspending on? Going to Empire U? What are we overspending on? Getting personally developed out the wazoo and buying books that are not filled with anything meaningful? Please tell us more about what we're overspending on.
I'm just going to help you with 2 things. First of all, I want you to have an awareness around it. I think an awareness is like your best friend. Know when you're a habitual spender. Know when you're stressed out and you're spending money on dumb stuff. Know when you're adding an extra appetizer when maybe you shouldn't because you're not going to eat it anyway. Whatever the stupid stuff is you find yourself, it's not that you can stop the trigger. It's how can you change the behavior? Because all of us have these triggers in our life, whether it's a financial trigger, whether it's an emotional.
Why are we stopping the behavior? Are we stopping the behavior to not spend as much so that we can spend more on ketones? Are we stopping the behavior so that we can spend more on personal coaching from Jessie Lee Ward in her accelerator? I mean, what is the motive? Why are we learning this right now? And what is she wanting to lead her listeners to do? I just got questions.
Emotional trigger, and we usually do bad things. We make bad decisions instead of making good decisions. So when you feel that that trigger and you're like, this is that thing. This is that thing I'm not supposed to do. And here I am. I'm doing the thing I'm not supposed to do. You do something good instead. The question you have to ask yourself is, what are you willing to say no to temporarily so you can say yes to anything later?
To anything? To make the claim that if I'm going to say no now, that I could say yes to anything in the future, that's not a possibility for most people. It's just not.
Most of you sit around all day long, every day of your lives, every week of your lives, every month of your lives, forever, ever beating yourself up. And it's like, it's never good enough for you. You're comparing yourself to everybody. You're looking at what somebody else is doing and saying, I don't know why I'm not making $100,000 a month yet. What's wrong with me? This is crazy. We've got to stop beating ourselves up when you're already doing more than most people. Most of you are so focused on the negative stuff that has happened in your past or is happening right now in your life that you are forgetting to look and see what you already have. You've got to have a different perspective sometimes. And so what I want as your assignments, if you're struggling with growing something in your life, you're struggling with your businesses growing, you're struggling with starting in your life, you're struggling with growing your social media, whatever it is, take out that sheet of paper. It'll have to be a new sheet of paper because it's going to be emotional and you're going to cry all.
Sometimes there's signs, though, that if something isn't working, that you need to change something. So if your social media isn't growing, why is it not growing? There's a definitive answer there, probably. If you're not growing in your business, there's probably a reason. Maybe people don't want the product. Maybe that people aren't able to find your product when they're looking for it online. So it could be a technical issue around SEO or your website's visibility. It could be how you are treating people when they do find you. There's lots of reasons about that. And she's saying, oh, you just need to be more grateful and fix your mindset so that all of the success can flow freely to you. No.
Over it. Write down all of the things that you've already overcome. I'm talking like, what happened in your childhood, some of you? That stuff that you beat yourself up over all the time, but you literally overcame it.
What are these reels? We're obviously watching them. I don't know if I'm going to call this series Real Advice, like REEL advice, because you know I love a pun, or if it is going to be part of the under 30 that I was trying to do. We'll see how long this ends up, but I'm going to try to do a balance of short content and long form content, and then pairing a long form content. Like the night before this, we went live and did a social media learning stream that Jessie Lee Ward had taught when she was still in Pure Romance. And so then this video is the shorter version of all of the gems that Jessie Lee Ward has dropped on her reels. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it works. Thanks for joining me. Live chat, I missed you. I should be live either for the next video or the video after that. And replay crew, I guess it's everybody. Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.